Hello, friends. The day you die, the bank locks the account with your name on it, and your spouse can't touch a dollar of it for funeral bills, rent, or groceries until the paperwork clears, sometimes weeks. But there is one free form sitting at every bank branch in Canada that lets that money skip the freeze entirely. Stay with me to number 6, because that's the move most people get completely backwards, and it quietly hands their savings back to a frozen estate. Number 1. Understand exactly what freezes, because it's not what most people picture. The moment a bank learns you've died, any account in your name alone is frozen. Not slowed down. Frozen. No withdrawals, no bill payments, no e-transfers, nothing, until your executor walks in with a death certificate and, in most cases, the will or a probate certificate. Here's the part that catches families cold. A power of attorney does not help. Your attorney's authority dies the exact second you do. So the adult child who's been paying your bills for years suddenly has no legal access at all. Picture it. Margaret in Hamilton had been managing her father's checking account under a POA for 6 years, paying his hydro and his phone bill every month. He died on a Tuesday. By Thursday, the $8,000 sitting in that account was untouchable, and the pre-authorized hydro payment bounced. The POA she'd relied on was worth nothing the moment he passed. Meanwhile, the funeral home wants $5,000 to $15,000 up front. The one small mercy. Most Canadian banks will pay a funeral invoice directly to the funeral home out of the frozen account if you bring the original bill in. So bring the itemized invoice to the branch, not a photo, and ask for direct payment to the funeral home. But your spouse still can't get grocery money. That gap between the day you die and the day probate clears, which routinely runs 6 to 8 weeks in Ontario, longer if the will is contested, is exactly what the free form is built to close. Number 2, this is the form itself. On every registered account you hold, your RRSP, your RRIF, your TFSA, the bank will let you name a beneficiary or a successor on a designation form. It's free, it takes about 5 minutes at the counter or online, and here is why it matters. Money in a registered account with a named beneficiary passes directly to that person outside your estate. It skips probate and it skips the freeze. If your TFSA holds $60,000 and your spouse is named on the designation form, that $60,000 can be released to them within days while the rest of the estate is still locked. The mistake that costs families dearly is leaving these forms blank. Take Robert, who opened a TFSA online during the pandemic and never filled in the beneficiary line. He assumed his wife would just get it. When he died, that $90,000 TFSA fell into his estate, got frozen, waited 4 months for probate, and cost his widow roughly $1,300 in Ontario estate tax that a single name on a form would have erased. When the beneficiary line is empty, the account defaults into the estate, frozen, probated, and taxed. So the single most valuable half hour you'll spend this month is confirming a living name is written on every registered account you own. Call your bank and ask them to read back exactly who is currently named on each one. Number 3, and this is where wording quietly costs thousands. On a TFSA, you can name either a beneficiary or a successor holder, and they are not the same thing. A successor holder, which can only be your spouse or common law partner, takes over your TFSA as their own. It stays tax-sheltered forever, and they inherit your contribution room on top of theirs. With the annual limit at $7,000 for 2024, and cumulative room now past $95,000 for anyone eligible since 2009, that room can be north of $100,000 of permanent tax-free space. A plain beneficiary, by contrast, gets the cash value at your death, but any growth after that date becomes taxable and your contribution room is simply gone. Here's the real cost. A couple where the husband named his wife merely as beneficiary on an $80,000 TFSA. The account grew $4,000 between his death and the day she collected it, and that $4,000 landed on her tax return, when successor holder would have kept every cent sheltered. Same account, same person inheriting it. One word on the form, and the difference is thousands in future tax-free growth. Same logic on a RRIF. Name your spouse as successor annuitant, and the RRIF rolls to them untouched. Payments just continue with no tax triggered. Name them a beneficiary instead, and you risk dragging the whole thing onto a tax return in the year of death. If you're married, the words you want are successor holder for the TFSA and successor annuitant for the RRIF check that both appear in writing. Remember I said number 6 is the one people get backwards. Hold that thought. Number 4, the free companion move for your everyday checking account. The designation form covers registered money, but your plain checking and savings can't name a beneficiary in most provinces. For those, the tool is a joint account held with right of survivorship. When one owner dies, full ownership passes automatically to the surviving owner. Outside probate, no estate certificate, no freeze. For a married couple, this is straightforward and worth doing. Keep a joint checking account so the survivor has immediate cash for the mortgage, hydro, and food the day after a death with no waiting. Consider the difference. When Susan's husband died, their joint account with $15,000 stayed fully open to her that same afternoon. Her neighbor, widowed the same year with a solo account, waited 7 weeks and had to borrow from her sister to cover the November mortgage. Joint survivorship also sidesteps Ontario's estate administration tax, which is $15 per thousand, 1.5% on everything in the estate above $50,000. On a $400,000 estate, that's around $5,200 in probate tax alone, avoided on anything held jointly or passing by designation. The action step is simple. One joint bills account with your spouse, right of survivorship confirmed in writing with the bank, and ask them to note it on the account record. Number 5. The 2 traps that break all of this, and both are geographic or legal. First, Quebec. If you bank in Quebec, the rules flip. The institution is legally required to freeze even a joint account when it learns of a death, and it releases only the survivor's proven half until the estate is settled. Right of survivorship on a bank account doesn't work the same way there, and beneficiary designations on plans generally have to run through your will or an insurance product. A Montreal widow who assumed her joint account made her safe found half of the $20,000 in it frozen pending the succession, because in Quebec, that survivorship clause carries no weight. If you're in Quebec, a will and often a notary are doing the work the free form does elsewhere. Don't assume a joint account saves you. Book the notary. Second trap, everywhere. The RRSP tax bomb. Unlike the TFSA, an RRSP is generally taxed in full on your final return unless it rolls to your spouse. A $200,000 RRSP left to an adult child instead of a spouse gets added to your income in the year you die, and at Ontario's top marginal rate of about 53%, that's over $100,000 gone to tax before the child inherits a cent. One father named his son beneficiary on a $250,000 RRSP thinking he was being generous. The estate got the tax bill of roughly $130,000, and the other siblings' inheritance shrank to cover it. Naming a qualifying spouse on that form isn't just about the freeze. It's about keeping the money whole, so verify a spouse, not a child, sits on any large RRSP. Number 6. The one almost everyone gets backwards. To dodge probate, a widowed parent adds their adult child to the checking account as a joint owner, assuming the money now passes cleanly to that child. Freeze avoided, job done. It's the opposite. In every common law province, a joint account between a parent and an adult child is presumed to be held in trust for the parent's estate. The law assumes it's not a gift, a rule the Supreme Court of Canada set out in 2007. So when you die, unless your child can prove you meant them to keep it, that account gets pulled right back into the estate, frozen, probated, and split among all your heirs per your will. Exactly the outcome you were trying to escape, and a frequent source of family lawsuits. It happened to one family in London. The mother added her eldest daughter to a $70,000 account for convenience. When she died, the other 2 children sued. The court presumed the money belonged to the estate, and it was divided 3 ways after legal fees ate almost $10,000. The fix is almost free. If you genuinely intend that child to keep the account, sign a short-dated note stating that intention, a declaration of gift, and keep it with your will. Or better, use a proper beneficiary designation and a will instead of a convenience joint account. Adding a child to your bank account without that written intent isn't estate planning. It's a trap that freezes the very money you meant to protect. So here's your one action this week. Go to your bank, And on every registered account, confirm a living beneficiary or successor is named, the spouse-only successor holder, and successor annuitant wording where it applies, and set up one joint bills account with right of survivorship for your spouse. That's the free form doing its job. If this could spare your family a frozen account at the worst possible week, subscribe and share it with someone over 65 today.